Welcome to a topic that describes a teaching strategy that is universally used across all disciplines and also across all student cohorts from undergraduate to graduate courses. So, what do you think is the most common teaching strategy? Oh, wait. Of course, it was on our title frame. It's questioning, or a more extended version of questioning and answering is the discussion method. So, what are our learning objectives for this session? I always have that so we know what we're going to be able to accomplish. I'll let you read it. You're going to be very busy because you're going to be defining, describing, classifying, and creating, implementing, and differentiating, which are a lot of things that you're going to be doing in order to lead effective questioning. So, why do we decide to spend a session on this topic of effective questioning or discussions? Well, because the discussion method has many benefits for our students. What are some of these? Well, it provides practice in thinking. That means deep critical thinking, like when you're using the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. This kind of practice really is good because it helps our students to be lifelong learners, to be future leaders, problem solvers, and also to be valuable contributors to societies. A second benefit is that the students can articulate what they have learned, and it means to develop communication skills, and most importantly, to explain or answer in their own words. A third benefit is to evaluate their own and others' opinions, to be exposed to diversity of opinions, statements, arguments, and then getting feedback. This is what we call active listening. The fourth one is an increase in retention and application. And this really improves learning because what it is, there are multiple iterations and extensions on a particular topic. And finally, there will be an increase in intrinsic motivation, which is a good thing. And this will happen especially if the discussion is going well. So, what do you see in here when the discussion is going well? Now, think about this. Think about in your classroom, and then on a piece of paper, just briefly write down, what are you seeing when this discussion or a long question and answer is working? I wrote down some things also. Here are my thoughts. Well, they're smiling and they're nodding their heads in agreement when you ask a question or elaborate further. And not only that, they are raising their hands, and they're eagerly raising their hands like call on me. Next thing, they answer quickly. There's no deadly silence, or you can see that they're not making eye contact with you. And then a fourth thing that you may see to say, hey, it's really working well, is not only are their hands raised and they're answering quickly, they're also answering correctly. And you know what? They may even ask follow-up questions. But, you know, let's be honest. There are some challenges that we face in teaching our students, and especially if we need a dialogue of this discussion. And our faculty over here have mentioned this, and you probably have said it also. You know, this discussion method is not working because the students just aren't engaged. Are they motivated? And oh my gosh, that cell phone or laptop is a really big distraction. So wait a minute, you're saying, Cheelan, no. My class looks like the class on the left-hand side of that grid where they are really actively engaged, and they look like this image here. Now, I don't want to disappoint you, so let me provide you with an interesting story. Every culture has certain norms, and norms are what are appropriate and expected in certain cultures and situations. So let me give you, for example, what are some expected norms in Asian culture? Well, one thing is you take off your shoes when you enter a home. The other thing is that when you're given a business card, you receive it with two hands. And then another thing is you always bring a gift when you're meeting somebody brand new for the first time. And what you do is you offer it to them, and they'll say, no. You have to offer it again. They'll say no. But keep offering it several times because then they will take it. Well, guess what? There is something called a classroom norms. All the students know about it, is that when I show good student behavior and engagement, here are some of the things that I must do, the student must do. So let's think about it. What are some of those classroom norms? Well, where do students sit if they want to say that I'm a good student? Do they sit in the back? No. They sit in the front or the middle. They maintain eye contact with you. They look at you and they smile and they nod. And you know what? They look up at you and then they look down like they're taking notes. And so you are quite pleased and you say, they really appear to be engaged and they're learning. But here's this book, and it talks about civil attention versus paying attention. What is civil attention? It means creating the appearance of paying attention without actually having to pay attention. Now, paying attention is what you really want. So how do you know which attention is there? Well, what you have to do is to make sure that you have paying attention and that students aren't just pretending. So, civil attention is happening all the time. And why do students think that they can get away with it? Well, one thing is that there's too much reliance. There's too much traditional lecture by the faculty. And also, the faculty don't take the time to ask questions of the students because they think, I've only got 50 minutes and I must deliver the content. But don't forget, this is an important caveat of student learning, is that the one who's doing the work is the one who's doing the learning. And that means in our class that the students must be doing the work in order to get the learning. So, do you want a little bit of research about what a traditional class looks like regarding lecturing? Here is some. For traditional large classes, research indicates that teachers talk for about academic content, that means you're lecturing, accounts for what percentage of the time? What do you think? 80%. Oh my God, that's huge. 80% of the class time. Well, what's happening then for the rest? Well, there's some silence, and silence accounts for 6% of the time. And then students are talking, which is really what discussion methods are about. 5%, oh my gosh. Now, don't say, I know this only equals up to 99%. That's a moot point. The big important thing is that faculty are talking too much. And remember that if they're not learning, nothing has happened. So what is your charge? What's the solution? You're going to create a new normal. A new normal. And what does that mean? Well, think about in a previous session where we talked about active learning. Do you remember what active learning means? It means doing something and then reflecting on what you just did. Guess what? Question and answers or discussion method is an active learning method. So please use that. So let's begin. How do we get this going? You got to set the stage. And in order to prepare everyone, that means you have to prepare the students and the faculty for leading effective conversations. And then this is what your classroom would look like. So let's begin with preparing our students. Well, there are things that you can do based on the assigned reading before they come to class. Here's one. Do pre-class videos and written activities. Now, this is what I've been doing. You've been watching videos, and then during the class or this time period, I've embedded activities for you to do. You can have a discussion board. On our campus, we have this software where a discussion board where students can post questions in it. And this is really great because many of our faculty say before class or maybe after class, I want you to post questions and respond to posts by two other of your fellow students. So that's one way to getting students to start thinking about it so they're prepared to answer questions in class. Another one is called the Participation Preparation Assignment. And what that means, a PPA, which means at the end of the class, the students are going to get a piece of paper from you, and in it there's going to be directions like, I want you to describe the reading in your class that you just were assigned, or apply a particular theory to this scenario. And then the next day, the students turn in their own responses to these questions, the directions you gave them. Now, before you lead them in discussion, put them in small groups and let them compare what they wrote, and then they can debrief to the large class. So these are really good 3 ways to prepare our students so they can be engaged in an effective discussion. What can you do as a faculty member? Well, How can we set the stage so the students are ready? One thing is to smile and start out with a really great question on there. The next thing you can do is start thinking about what are some really good questions to ask and why do you want to ask them. And another way is to do it is to start writing a whole set of questions, a whole diversity of questions, so you have it ready right there for you. Now, and then also be prepared to give good feedback to your students. So, what are our learning objectives that you just accomplished? Here they are. You'll be able to define the benefits of effective classroom discussion. That means how to prepare your students and yourself, and you also describe the learning environment. What does it look like? Don't forget, do we want civil attention or do we want paying attention? Paying attention. That is our goal for the rest of the module in here. Thank you.